Hello everyone, I am your reporter for today and I'm going to report the topic sociological perspective, specifically Mead and the social self, Mead's theory of self. Okay, first of all, who is this Mead? Who is Mead? George Herbert Mead from 1863 to 1931 is an American sociologist best known as the founder of American pragmatism, okay? A pioneer of symbolic interaction theory, and most importantly, he is one of the founders of the social psychology. Okay? So, what is his theory? What is Mead's theory of self? Mead's theory of self suggests that the self maintains the perception of person holds on his or herself in his or her mind, emerges or came from the social interaction with others. This means that the perception of oneself comes from the recollection of the social interaction with others. That means that it came from the social experiences, social activities, or even the feelings you felt in the different social interactions with others. Okay? So this is in effect a theory. No. Rather an argument against biological determinism. To define what that is, biological determinism, or also known as genetic determinism, is a belief that a person's behavior comes solely or indefinitely from his or her genes, right? That is biological determinism or genetic determinism. At least that is one of the basic explanations of that. So this theory is an argument to the biological or genetic determinism because it holds that the self is neither at birth, so the self doesn't exist at birth, nor necessarily at the beginning of social interaction. Okay, so it is not on the birth, first time where you live in this world, or the beginning of a social interaction. The self does not exist in those, right? So it is reconstructed in the process of social experiences and activity. So the self exists in the recollection of the different social experiences, activities, or anything that is related to social interaction with others. That is how a person perceives his or himself according to George Herbert Mead's theory of self. Okay, so according to Mead, the self has two components. It is the I and the me. The me represents the expectations and the attitude of others, the generalized others, right? Organized into a social self. The individual defines his or her own behaviors with the reference to the generalized others of the social groups he or she occupies. This means that his or her behaviors depends or reflects on what the others, the generalized others, do in a social group he or she in, right? Okay, so the I, it is the response to me, or the person's individuality. It is the essence of agency in human action. So, in effect, the me is the self as object, and while the I is the subject. So I is a person's individuality. It is where he or she reflects on the me, the social self. Okay? So in other words, the I is the response of an individual to the attitudes of the generalized others, while the me is the accumulated understanding of those generalized others. It is the total comprehension of what those others in a social group, right? It is how one thinks or perceives the group's oneself, right? Okay? So it is the I that the individual impulses. It is the I that the self as a subject, while the me, it is the object, right? Okay, so it is also defined that I is the knower, while the me is the known. The I is the one who perceives the and reflects about the me, which is what is known, and I is the knower who is one wants to know more about the me, because I is the response to me, right? So the mind or the stream of thoughts is just a cycle of self-reflective movement of the interaction between I and the me. So I think most of the time in our minds, I and me can contradict, or like it's like if they are a person, they like debates on each other, because it is self-reflective movements, right? So they reflects on each other's thoughts or the recollection of their behaviors, the I and the me. Okay, to conclude, mid selves proves to be noticeably entwined with sociological existence. For mid, existence in a community comes before individual consciousness. First, one must participate or experience in the different social positions within society, and only subsequently can one use that experience to take perspective of others and become self-conscious. This means that our sociological existence is interconnected with the social interaction. For me, that existence in our community comes before individual consciousness. So before we are conscious or of our individuality, one must exist in a community and must participate or take up like some roles or different social positions within a society that he or she lives in, only to use that experience that he or she has accumulated in participating of the different social interactions to take perspective of others. Like you will use that information you got and the experience you got to have a better perspective and become self-aware or self-conscious. With that power in mind and in our hand, we can become self-conscious. That is all according to Mead's theory, the Mead's theory of self. That was my report for today, the Mead's theory of self. Thank you so much and have a good day.